Hi, I'm Brian, and I'm going to go through how to adjust the valves on a 2005 CRF 450. Most of them are going to be pretty much close to the same to this. This is my own personal bike. Her name's Glitzel, love her. We went elk hunting on the bow hunt. That's why you see the little bow things there, and I've got straps for tying meat to the back. Had a successful hunt, good hunt, but the valves are way out of adjustment now. They are just like not cool. Signs of your valves being out of adjustment is your compression is greatly decreased. When you go to crank it over, like I can just pretty much do it with my hand, and it's not very hard. It shouldn't be that easy. So basically I'm going to go through and adjust valves. Without further ado, I'm going to show you what you do. You pull the bolts out of the seat thing here and here. It's already been pulled, so you pull that off, set it aside. You disconnect the bolts on your radiator shroud here and here. Remove the top bolt here. Do the same on the bolts on the other side, as well as disconnecting your fuel line. To turn the fuel off, just have this go the same direction as the hose. It'll say off on the front part of it here. So anyway, once you do those, you can pull away this rubber thing. It folds back this way. And then I usually disconnect the bottom one. You can do top or bottom, it doesn't matter. Set that aside, and then your fuel tank comes off. The petcock for the gas tank, it's separate. It's bolted to the frame. There's a little nut right here. It's 8mm. You got to pull that off. Otherwise, your tank isn't going anywhere. And if you disconnect the line behind that, then it's a free flow. You're going to have a gas mess on your hands. Okay, the next thing you want to do, I've removed the fuel tank. We get a pan out shot for the reference. Pull these 3 bolts. You'll notice that the front ones are long, the back ones are pretty short. Anyway, you pull those, you pull your spark plug boot, tuck it out of the way, undo the clamp and pull that hose, little breather vent hose, PCV hose. Get it out of the way. And then you'll find you've got grommets in here that'll try to get lost. You got to keep those. They are metal on the inside, so you can use a magnet to get those with. Without them, you'll have a leaking condition. Didn't stage those the way I staged the bolts, you can tell. So anyway, once you do that, then you can pull the valve cover off. Probably making everybody sick moving around like this. I just don't have a tripod for this sort of thing. But anyway, pull the valve cover aside, and lo and behold, this is where you're going to be measuring your valves. You're going to measure on the intake side here and here, and these are exhaust actually. Those you usually don't even mess with. It's the intake ones, it's the ones that are under these lobes. With the lobes in the upright position, you slide feeler gauges under there and check your gap. What happens is the gap deteriorates down to where there's nothing left, and so then you need to use a different spacer. There's a formula in the manual I'm about to show you that'll tell you what kind of spacer you need. Okay, so now I'm doing the intake valves. The right side intake valve, I can barely get this in. What I did is I turned the crank while I put it in from this side, and that helps drag it in there. I've got a good slip feel. You can barely slide it in and out. And the measurement on this blade is, for the love, you cannot read anything with this flip camera, but anyway, it's basically it's 0.001 and a half, 0.0015. So that's the measurement that I got on that one. Nothing I do can get a feeler gauge into that left side one. It's just bottomed out at 0. It's past due to be done. Basically, this thing was hard to start. It lost compression. It wasn't as powerful as it used to be. Still kicks ass, even with the valves kind of worn down. It's just a fun bike. These things have balls. But anyway, that's a technical term. But anyway, so those are the measurements that I'm going to be using. I'm not going to touch the exhaust valve. I'm not going to touch the decompression. They're perfect. But with these, I got 0.0015 on the right, and I'm going to use 0 as my number for the one on the left. And I'll show you what to do with that. So like I say, on the exhaust valves, so usually they're okay. They should be a 0.011 or 11 thousandths of an inch. As you look here, I've got mine set up at 0.010. It's just kind of crude metric. That'd be 0.254, and they're just cherry. They're just right in the zone. Basically, both sides of them are. You want to make sure that you're at 14 thousandths of an inch on your decompression. That's what this little adjustment is here. Okay. I'm going to show you how to do the timing chain thing now. Basically, to pull it, you only got to pull the one on the back side here, and then also this one out here, and that'll detension your chain. We've already loosened these, so I'll pull them out by hand. When you're pulling those out, seriously, caution, do not drop those bolts down inside this case. They're going to want to do that because gravity's going to be pulling on them. Obviously, duh, but seriously, you don't want to do that. What I usually do, I have a little magnet that I have right next to it, so that when I'm backing it out with my greasy, slimy fingers and it's all slippery, dude, just touch it with the magnet. Don't let it fall in there. Grab the chain. You know, if the chain position changes, it doesn't matter, as long as when you finally end it up that you're good. This is the tension side of the chain. This is the slack side that the chain tensioner brings up the slack. So when you put it back together, just remember that this side needs to be tight, and you want all of your slack to be down that side. So anyway, let's do it. Okay, so I pulled those out. They were finger tight, and this on the cam wheel. I've got it wired here. I've got it wired up to the frame. You just wiggle that right on off of there. Just let it lay to the side. I pulled out the bolts here, 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 and here. So this assembly and the camshaft, they're all ready to come out. Just give them a little wiggle. I tend to get pretty stuck down on there with the alignment shims, but they'll come up. Just have to sweet talk them. Once you get them off, see, like one of my little spacers stuck to the bottom side there, and the other one you can see is seated down on that right side. You need to keep track of which one came from where, because you'll use those numbers in the math. I'm about to do the metric system, because that's how the shims come. They come in a metric sizing. So here's how you do it. You take your old clearance, you subtract from it what the specification should be. For your intake valves on a CRF 450, it should be 0.16 millimeter clearance. Take the difference, in this case it was 0.122 millimeters, and you add that difference, which will be a negative number most of the time. It should be every time anyway. Subtract that from what your shim thickness was. In this case, on my right hand side, I had a shim of 1.6. So by the time I do that, the number I get is 1.478. And so they don't make a shim that's 1.478. It's basically 1.4 3/4. So that's what my new shim thickness is going to be on the right. And that's basically what my shim thickness was on the left. So I could probably even get away with doing that shim. It's 1.4½. Thinner shims, basically you'll look at the old shim was 1.6, the new shim's thinner. It's better to err on the thinner side, in my opinion. You'll have a little bit more valve lash in the temporary, but it'll last longer. So for the last part, the timing chain tensioner, I've got all the timing marks lined up. The left side of the cam is tight on the chain. You take the bolt out of the back side here, and then I've got this little screwdriver I use all the time for this. What I did is I knocked the handle down short and then cut it off. This is like a little Craftsman screwdriver. But as you look in there, you can see that it's got a flathead opening. You just basically put the screwdriver in there, and as you turn that, it's auto tensioning when you let go, but you turn that and it draws that back, and that's what actually pushes on the timing chain tensioner.